Cassandra.
Hey.
All right. So we have 9 folks in this meeting. I know that some are from the advisory committee and then some are some county staff as well as Chris from Redistricting Partners. I think let's go ahead and get started. People can join us. My name is Matthew Davis. I'm with the Solano County Administrator's Office. It's nice to meet you. I met some of you in person last week at the community outreach meeting in Fairfield. Nice to see you again. I'm supporting Michelle Hepner while she's out of the office. And tonight is the next meeting in the session. And just kind of as some housekeeping, I'm recording this meeting and it'll be posted to the redistricting website just because it is a public meeting. And so as part of our first action, I'd like to just do the roll call, please. So when I call your name, if you could just say that you're here. Okay, Tiffany Jones.
Here.
Alex Matthias. Cassandra James.
It's Cassandra. I'm present.
I'm sorry, Cassandra.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Engel. Stephanie Cobb. Mina Diaz. Delon Jackson. Mike Nail. Deborah Russo.
Here.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi.
Sean Smith. I see you.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Steve Greenberg. Jim McCulley. And Rosie Enriquez. Apologies if you hear stuff in the background. My kids are actually being good for the moment. Okay, so we'll see if some more folks join us, and when they do, I can just get their names from the guest list on here. If I did miss anybody, please let me know. So now let's go ahead and do our second action item, which if there's any members from the public who would like to comment at this time, if you're online through the video forum, you can just either raise your hand, or if you're joining us by phone, you could just speak up now. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. So as more folks join us, I'll go ahead and add them to the roster. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn my camera and microphone off just so you're not distracted by my kids. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Chris from Redistricting Partners.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see everyone. I think I've met most of you at the outreach meetings that I've presented at. So thank you all for being here tonight. And one thing I think would be good to start our discussion is just give you guys an update on like where we are with the census. So I think everyone's aware that the census data set came out last Thursday. It's called the legacy file data set because it's, as we like to call it, the IKEA furniture of data, where it's all there. It's just that we have to process it so that we can use it. So we've taken that data release in, we've put it in our GIS software, and compiled all the numbers. So the first thing we wanted to do is kind of go through what the current populations are for each of the current districts. And so you guys can kind of see where the growth has been in the county, what the deviations of the current lines are. But before I jump into that, I just want to put a big asterisk on this, is that this legacy data set isn't what the Board of Supervisors will use to draw the lines, because under California law, and I know this, you've heard this a couple times, but I just always like to remind everyone, is we have to use the prisoner reallocated data set the statewide database is currently compiling. So we expect that to come out middle to end of September. So this isn't the final data set, but for us, this is a really good way of just thinking through and visualizing and kind of level setting populations, because we don't think that there's going to be a huge shift in total population of the county from this data set to the prisoner reallocated data set, because there isn't a huge state prison in Solano County that I'm aware of. So please correct me if I'm wrong. So really what's going to happen is they're going to, during the prison reallocation, they're taking 90,000 state prisoners out of their current prison populated census blocks, and they're going to assign about 2/3 of them based on their residency, their address, into the specific census block that they resided in before they were arrested. And then for the other third, they don't have a good address for them. They just have a county residency for them. So they're going to distribute the other third, about 30,000 inmates, to like just randomly to the county of record. So what we're thinking of the prisoner reallocation for counties like Solano without a big prison in it, is that it'll be like a dusting of all the census blocks with a handful of people, of residents. So I think the total population of the county will change and the city's populations will change slightly, but it won't be a drastic, we hope, we expect that it won't be a drastic shift. So with all of that to do, let me share my screen and we can go through this brief presentation on the current lines and their population. But Deborah, before I jump in, why don't you ask your question? I think you have
I just wanted to see, so the prison population has been taken out of Vacaville where the prison is, but nothing's been reallocated, right?
Right.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, these numbers will include that, like the prison population in Vacaville, because nothing's changed. What we'll have to use is a prison population they'll take the prison population out of Vacaville and then put those prisoners back to where their record of residency was. There we go. So this is just to orient everybody, the current lines of the districts. We've got District 1 that is mostly Vallejo. District 2, we have Vallejo and Benicia. District 3, which has Fairfield. District 4, which is Vacaville and goes up into Dixon, and then District 5, which wraps around and has a lot of Fairfield in kind of the rural areas like Rio Vista and into the Delta. So this is the 2011 districts, but with 2020 populations. So the first question that I'm sure is in your minds are, what are the current populations of these districts? So you can see that District 1, is everyone hearing me all right, or is there a reverb? Okay. So District 1 really is almost perfect. It's 25 people overpopulated under the legacy data set. And you can see that actually the districts are actually decently balanced. You only have a total deviation of 7.1%, which under traditional redistricting principles and case law, local jurisdictions, right, have that 10% deviation that they can work with. So if the board wanted to, they probably could just pass these these lines as they are currently. And then I just want to point out, so the two districts really that are on the top and bottom are District 3 and District 5. So District 3 is underpopulated by about 2,000 people, and District 5 is overpopulated by 4,300 people. And so that's really, if you really wanted to get these deviations down, 3 would have to get larger, of course, and 5 would have to get smaller. And again, total deviation of the current lines are 7.1. The other thing to look at, and something that we've talked a little bit about, is the citizen voting age population. This is the data set developed for the Department of Justice to analyze compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act, and specifically Section 2. And so this has each of the districts' citizen voting age population. And I can stop. This is a good place to stop. Sean, if you have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point. We do have two prisons that are, I believe they're at least I thought we were told there were like 4,000, a population of over 4,000 in District 4. And so
Yeah.
it seems like that would put it probably over the 10, that might put it over the 10% variance just with that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
that
mean,
one's already underpopulated. So I don't, it does seem like even though that some of them might seem okay as is, when you start moving the other ones, I think it seems like almost everybody would have to give or take a little bit based
yeah, I
on
mean,
those
I think the
changes.
interesting thing is one, right? Like that's deviation is pretty good. 1 and 2. But yeah, you're right. Like 3, 4, and 5, I think you're right. Like if 4,000 people are being taken out of 4, then that's probably going to get you over. I think that'll probably be like around 6% deviation under, or thereabouts.
Can you go back to the where you have the deviation showed? Because I thought it said it was like negative.
It's here. Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's -2 now.
2%.
So if you took away, if you made it like 5,800 people under, then it would be
Like
probably in
6%.
5 or 6%. Yeah, somewhere in that range. The other thing though too is it comes out of the denominator, that 4,000 people. So yeah. So just getting back into the CVAP, the one thing that you can see is there's not really a really high watermark in any of the districts. The highest citizen voting age population of a protected class is the 24.9% API community in District 1. So you don't see anything close to 50%, let alone close to 30. With the highest CVAP being 24.9 with the API community in District 1. So that there, as we've kind of pointed out, I think from the start, is that we didn't see a probable need to draw a Section 2 seat because of the underlying ethnic makeup of the county. Does anyone have any questions? The next thing I was going to do is go into kind of like our next meetings and what we kind of need to focus on, I think, as we get closer and closer to this final report due back to the Board of Supervisors. Tiffany, do you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to see if we could get this slide emailed to us.
Oh yeah, I'll email the whole packet to everybody. I'll actually email to Matthew, and then I think he'll pass it along to you guys. Yeah,
Thank you.
of course. And then Sean, do you still have a question, or? I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I did request some other information. I think Delon and myself had emailed, I think Michelle and Matthew to get some other information because I feel like you're about to get to the point where you ask us to get the report done, but it's sort of putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah. I think you're asked for renter and homeowner information. Was that the request?
That was about 10% of the request. Yeah.
Okay. I'll work with Matthew and make sure we have that for you. Because I think it was for building it into Districtor, right? Okay.
I can send you the email if need be.
Okay.
We haven't even, I didn't receive a response, so I'm not sure what's going on or why we haven't received the data that we've requested a couple times.
Okay. I'll get into I'll figure it out and get your response, Sean. I'm sorry. So the next round is we'll be having the outreach meeting on August 21st at the Vacaville Town Square Library, 9 to 11 on Saturday morning. I'll be in attendance again. I hope as many people as possible can be there. And I think as we kind of wind down with the second to last outreach meeting, I think it's really important for everyone to start or continue to reach out to friends and family and neighbors throughout Solano County, urging them to submit maps, emails, you know, map ideas on napkins, anything that really gets to like the idea of submitting community of interest testimony. Because right now, the first two in-person outreach hearings, we actually had quite a bit of maps submitted. We had, I think, 6 submitted in the first meeting on the 31st in Vallejo. I think we had 9 submissions in the Fairfield meeting on August 7th. And I was surprised. We had pretty good attendance. We had about 10 people in attendance on last Saturday at the conference room in Fairfield, but no one left a map. It was interesting. Everyone took all the maps with them and promised to submit, but I haven't seen any submissions this week. So we don't really have a lot of submissions from the 14th. But I think we have enough time with these last 2 hearings or outreach hearings, plus the time of like in September when we're putting the report together. Because I think one of the things we really want to do, and I'll just go to the next one, is basically use all the time we can in September to continue to collect community of interest testimony. So what we're going to do on the 2nd is we'll come forward with a preliminary look at the community of interest testimony that's been submitted to you. We should get this to you in advance because our last outreach hearing is on the 28th. Well, we'll try to get it to you as fast as we can, but you'll have it a couple days in advance. And I think the idea on the 2nd is really to go through the community of interest testimony, think through if there's ways to augment what we already have, if there's holes kind of in the county, or there are community of interest testimonies that just weren't submitted. And I think one of the things that we're really underlining and trying to drive home with RACs all throughout the state is that community of interest testimony really is not data driven. It's really a subjective idea of what binds your community together. Can it be mapped? Is it mappable, right? Is there a concentration, a geographic description of it? And then why should it be kept whole and in a district? What binds it to the agency? What binds it to the county in this instance? And so we don't necessarily need a ton of census data to help us get to the community of interest data or community of interest maps that we're looking for. And I think to underscore also that this RAC is really is focused solely on this community of interest testimony, not really drawing district maps at all, but focused solely on providing that input to the county board of supervisors so that when they start drafting maps, they can use those, I like to call them stones on the map, to start thinking about draft district lines. So then on September 2nd, we'll have two meetings. So the 16th, we're hoping to have a pretty well developed report for everyone to review, make edits, and comment about what needs to be added or subtracted or changed, and then have a final version for you on the 23rd to again review, make any final edits, and then pass that report to the board. And I believe the board will hear this on September 28th. I didn't add that to the slide. So that kind of concludes the next process for the commission, and I'd just like to open it up for comments, questions, etc. Okay. So that's go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I did have a question. So I know that you said you're going to follow up on. I'm just wondering trying to figure out the timeline of, because in a sense it is, you're right. I mean, it can be subjective, but I think personally I'd like to make it objective, and that's why I think I asked for some of those factors, is because some of them I have an understanding of, especially certain communities I know very well, and other ones not as much. So I think that's where some of the other data, the GIS mapped data, comes in handy, where we can be a little more objective about it rather than just saying this is some area that Sean knows about, and then I draw a partial map that maybe means a little bit to me, but it may not mean as much without underlying data to support it, because it probably wouldn't be very influential if it's totally subjective.
But I guess I think you're the beauty of the Fair Maps Act and the idea of it is that anybody in the county, any resident, can come forward and talk about their community of interest, and it doesn't have to be based on any census data. It can just be about where they shop, where they go to church, where their kids go to school, the route they walk their kids on in the morning, to get exercise. It's those types of pieces of information, and the discussion of my neighborhood is very similar to this neighborhood next to me, and I think we should be joined together because we share a common bond, and we're very different from this neighborhood over here. So when you're drawing district lines, take that into consideration. If you listen to the statewide commission, most of the testimony is not driven by data, but it's driven by a description of people's communities. And I think it would be great, Sean, if you did a community map of the areas you know really well and articulated the boundary and why you think it should be bound together. And I'm not just going to point out Sean to do it. I'd love everybody on the commission or on the rack to do the same kind of thing, if possible. And that's not an excuse. I will be getting you that data, Sean. I'm sorry. As soon as possible, hopefully by early next week. So you'll have it. And of course, I'll distribute it to not I. Matthew and Michelle will distribute it to all the RAC members. Any other questions or comments or action items that we should talk through?
Chris, I actually have, it's Tiffany. It's okay. I actually have a question going back to the legacy data that screen that you showed us, and particularly, I'm just trying to understand something about District 1.
Yeah.
The preliminary numbers show that we're at 90,723, and I saw that it was a 0% deviation. So can you explain what that actually means? Because I don't think a lot of people have an understanding of what that actually means. I want that on the record.
The ideal population for the county is 698. So what this is showing is that District 1 is, according to legacy data, is 25 people over the ideal population for the county. So it's 0 point probably 0.01% off. It's very close to the ideal population that all the districts should, if we wanted to balance to 0, should be balanced to. And then you can see like District 3 in comparison, right, is 2,067 people underpopulated, and with a negative deviation of 2.3.
Right. So basically, and I'm more focused on District 1.
Yeah.
It looks like the lines can't drop or go anywhere. Like this is it's perfect right the way it's at, including maybe.
No, I don't think that.
Okay.
I mean, my thing is this is the current lines, right? And like one of the things about the rack is because you're not having to draw district lines and think through like a balancing. You can really present to the Board of Supervisors, like the community of interest that really should be joined together. And I remember in like the first hearing, right afterwards, when everyone was drawing maps on the placemats, a group was talking about how it was really important to keep northern Vallejo and I'm blanking on the names, I'm sorry, but of the neighborhoods together because they have a very similar socioeconomic average, and they also have a lot of the same needs from the county regarding services. And so there was a lot of discussion how the current line between 1 and 2 splits those communities and puts northern Vallejo in 1 and southern Vallejo in 2, and that should be something that the Board of Supervisors should look into. So I think although 1 is balanced and could just be, they could just check the mark box and say, yes, that's fine. I still think because of this process, we want to bring forward those community of interest testimonies that push back on the current lines and say, look, you need to take another look at this line because of what we're hearing from the community.
Thank you. That answered my question.
I'm glad. Sean?
Yeah, just one other thing I want to point out. Do we so this doesn't include the prison population, so that would change all of the districts as far as what the average would be. It sounds like the average might be a little more like 89,000 or some odd. So I think,
Yeah.
the District 1 and pretty much all of them except for District 5 seem like they would probably be within the tolerance roughly. But of course, once you start addressing one, then, it affects the others and probably would affect the ones bordering that district to some extent at least. But did you say when the prison population is that going to be coming out when the board makes a decision after we're done?
Yeah. So the prisoner reallocated data should be coming out right now. The statewide database's website says by the September 23rd. Because the legacy file came out a little bit early of 4 days early. We're hoping that the prisoner reallocated comes out 4 days early, so that will be the 19th of September. But it would be pretty much, it would be after or right before your last meeting to finalize the community of interest map report to the board. But the board would then get all of your data and your report, and then have the benefit of having the final data set before they start drawing maps at all. So I think it's a good timing for the board as we shift from community of interest to drawing district lines.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I think unless there's any other questions or discussion items, I think we've gone through the current agenda. I know we've got through pretty quickly tonight. So I think a motion to adjourn is in order unless unless there are other questions.
This is Tiffany. I motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:35.
Second.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate it. This video will be posted to the redistricting website for the public, as well as for you guys to review later on if you choose to. And then we'll work with, Michelle and I will work with Chris to get those documents to you guys that you requested.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. It's a good looking document. I was like, I can share this with people. It looks
Yeah.
good.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
Have a great night,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.